Okay, so the reception to the last video was absolutely fantastic. There were some genuinely heartwarming comments about how people are finally putting their foot down, along with heartbreaking comments of those who felt let down by Nintendo's current practices. But overall, I appreciate how civil everyone was, and we really need to keep it that way. Be angry, be passionate, agree, disagree, and agree to disagree, but always have class. Before we jump into today's topic, leave a like and subscribe. You all absolutely destroyed the 3K goal, so let's shoot for 4K. Cancel your Nintendo Switch Online membership. We've already brought one quote-unquote unstoppable corporation to its knees, and I think it's about time we give Nintendo the same treatment since they're so obsessed with setting precedents. And the terms for me to resubscribe is going to be putting games back down to $60. We have proof that anything higher than that isn't worth it from this company. And I don't want to hear that Nintendo can't do this because they had a free social media app on their devices when they were struggling, and they replaced that app with an arbitrary subscription service once they were successful. Now, if you think this won't do anything, then let's talk about business. You see, in order for shareholders to continue giving Nintendo money, they need to see upwards trends. And if they see the value of their investment go down, they'll get scared and pull out. Nintendo Switch Online is $20 for the base membership and $50 for an online membership. So if 20 million people, the population of New York, or around 400,000 people per state in the US cancel their NSO membership, that would mean that shareholders are seeing approximately $1 billion less in revenue over the course of the next year. And keep in mind that Nintendo is valued at approximately a third of what Disney is currently, so proportionally speaking, that $1 billion is going to sting just as hard as that $4 billion stung Disney. But I know it's unrealistic for that many people to unsubscribe from the service, so why stop there? You might be under forced arbitration, but I'm sure you've got some old drifting Joy-Cons in need of repair, and I'm sure that an influx of products that are suffering from defects that Nintendo at one point claimed isn't real is just what the company needs as it continues to hike the price of technology released in 2017. And once you're done with them, I'm sure that some customer on eBay would be overjoyed to take them off your hands. Did you know that Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 both run for about $20 each on eBay? And it's not like a Wii is hard to get your hands on. They sold 100 million units and I've seen them run for as low as 50 on there. And that's just regular Wiis. There's at least 13 million Wii U's in the wild, and if that's still too much effort for you, then I think it's worth mentioning that emulators are just media players. You put CDs in a CD player or a computer to play what's on the CD, you put an MP3 file into a media player like VLC Media Player and play music, you put a ROM file into RetroArch or an ISO file in Dolphin Emulator and you play the game. And don't you go saying downloading an emulator is too complicated. Minecraft is one of the most popular games of all time and its culture literally revolves around mods. I don't want to hear it. What I do want to hear is where in the law it states that video games are the exception to what devices they can be played on, because video game publishers have enjoyed a ton of exceptions when it comes to consumer protections and regulation that other industries are subject to, like revoking your right to use a product that you paid for without offering refunds, and allowing mechanics that are as legally distinct from gambling as a Hydroxys from an Oreo to be included in games marketed towards children. But if you're still convinced that playing Mario on your PC is illegal, then tell me, what device do I use to play my copy of the Super Mario Bros. Movie? Again, you want to claim that playing Mario on any device other than Nintendo's is illegal, but why doesn't Sony throw a fit when you watch Spider-Man movies on an Xbox? And why doesn't Nintendo throw a fit when I play the Super Mario movie on a PS5? It's almost as if the device you use to play media doesn't matter as long as you legally obtain it. Because it doesn't. Just make sure you buy the game first, they're just one Google search away, and you can play the games while paying a fraction of the price. As a matter of fact, obtaining games via this method is actually the moral thing to do because buying a used copy uses less plastic and reduces your carbon footprint. And there are actually plenty of websites you can go to easily download these ROMs. Like Steam. Rerez made an excellent video that I'd highly recommend covering how you can legally obtain ROMs on Steam, and even touched on how you can preserve your physical library digitally, and it's definitely worth a watch. You know, I like to use the term Nintendo Juicero to describe Nintendo's logic about emulators. For those of you who don't know, there was this company called Juicero in the 2010s that made premium priced juicing machines with app integration because why don't you need an app for your juicer? The product was marketed as a smart, sleek, and convenient way to make fresh juice, but after a ton of criticism being leveled at the company for being overpriced, compounded by the discovery that you can just squeeze pouches to get juice, the company went into a complete panic, and an actual quote from the CEO said,
"You won't experience that value by hand-squeezing produce packs,"
Dunn whimpered,
which, to be clear, contain nothing but fresh, raw, organic chopped produce, not juice. What you will get with hand-squeeze hacks is a mediocre, and maybe very messy, experience that you won't want to repeat once, let alone every day.
The use of the word hack here is the best part of this quote, because that's the same desperate language that Nintendo uses when talking about emulators. Just look at this top shelf whining on their website.
In particular, video game emulators allow games to be played on another console, PC, or handheld device.
Alright, so far so good.
Unauthorized video game emulators allow games to be played in ways that the developers did not
Okay, hold on. Unauthorized video game emulators allow games to be played in ways that the developers did not originally intend. Nintendo. And encourage the use of unauthorized, i.e. pirate copies of games. As a result, unauthorized video game emulators negatively impact a user's gameplay experience, says the company who left debugging blocks in their own emulator. The investments made by creators to develop and publish unique and innovative games, and so the video game industry as a whole. This is written like a YouTube comment. Additionally, some unauthorized emulators also circumvent the security measures in the games and are therefore unlawful pieces of software. Nintendo is committed to protecting the creativity and hard work of video game developers. Illegal circumvention of copyright protections or engaging in copyright piracy stifles innovation and hampers the development of entertainment experiences that are enjoyed by millions of players around the world. They go on and on about unauthorized emulators, but notice how they never say emulation is illegal, and they never say that unauthorized emulators are illegal either. I could go on about the moral grandstanding and values that this company claims to still have, but the point is that this is the language of a company desperately trying to justify their inferior technology and downplay or even demonize the benefits of using products outside their ecosystem for a better experience. Before I end off, I want to talk about the other way to avoid giving Nintendo money, which is by playing games from other developers, but let's be honest, it's easier said than done. Obviously, you can go into your Steam backlog, or as a matter of fact, create a Steam account and browse a storefront for the first time. Their algorithm has gotten much better at filtering out garbage games, far outclassing Nintendo's offerings, and you'll definitely come across something if you search long enough. It reminds me of going to a used game store and picking up like 5 last-gen games for $20. But if you're in the mood for something new, check out the Sage 2025 website. There are tons of new and experimental games worth checking out, and supporting games at this stage is actually how we wind up with games like Sonic Mania, Silksong, Claire Obscur, Lethal Company, and Penny's Big Breakaway. One game that I'm really looking forward to is a ukulele remake, Yooka-Replayley, and if Bubsy's getting a third chance in the 2020s, then these guys definitely do. I know people always advocate for boycotts, but I never really see creators suggest what to do after you stop supporting the company beyond saying play indie games, so hopefully this video can act as a sort of starting point for where to look. I'm going to be covering some of these games in the near future as well, so look forward to those, and I also want to say thank you again for the support on the last video. I was shocked at just how many people felt the same way I did, not only about Nintendo, but also the gaming community, given the endless support they have on the surface. And while I can't speak for everyone, I feel like I was able to give a voice to the silent majority, but maybe I'm just being pretentious. With that all being said, if you enjoyed this video, then be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and subscribe to see the next post as soon as it goes live. Alright, take care.